Cause it's time to move on now. It's time for murder blues.
We're wolves now. We're alpha wolves because that's a thing. Hello and welcome.
Alpha Wolf is a band, my friend,
Yeah.
from Australia.
Sound of Silence. Wait, no, that's not Alpha Wolf.
Their most recent song was "Sucks to Suck."
It was close.
with
Two
Ice-T on it.
S's.
With Ice-T.
Oh, with the singer Ice-T, the rapper.
The rapper, he just monologues in the song. If we're being honest.
Oh hell yeah!
Yeah.
My guy.
Yep. You would like the music video. It's like a monster running around and chasing kids or the band around a high school, like it's some like weird 80s slasher or something like that.
Ooh, I'll have to check that out. Have you seen the new Justin Timberlake movie that's directed by Ty West? Or music video, yeah.
Oh.
But it's directed by Ty West. Apparently, it's supposed to be really creepy. I just haven't watched it yet. So
I didn't even know this existed. You were the first I have heard of such things, and here we are.
Speaking of here we are the Murder Moose podcast, part of the Slash and Cast podcast network.
It's in the game.
It's in my ass. Hey, I've been like on a horror book binge lately after reading Fantastic Land. And I found this girl on TikTok that does a comparison of like, if you like this movie, you'll like this book. So I'm picking some of them up. One is like, if you like Silence the Lambs, you'll like None Shall Sleep. One is if you liked Vivarium, then you'd like Retown. One, if you liked Coherence, you'd like Dark Matter. One, if you like any of the 80s thrillers, there's a series that starts with My Heart is Like a Chainsaw. And then if you like Get Out, there's a book called Ace of Spades. And then The Final Girl Support Group, which I have that book at home. If you like The Witch, Slewfoot. And if you like No Exit, Dead of Winter. So I thought that was interesting. I thought we'd share that really quickly for anybody who reads and listens to us. There's you some information.
Who reads?
Me.
Silly. I don't know how to read. I do know how to read. It's just the last time I tried to read, Zelda ate my books, and and then the previous time was when I was trying to read Dune before Dune came out, and then they deleted it because of COVID, and I got mad and stopped reading.
That's fair.
And yeah, so that's about it. I listen to books. I am like 40 hours into or 35 hours into the Brandon Sanderson's Stormlight Chronicles book 4, and it's like a 57-hour book or something like that.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it is. I've been listening to it since I think December. I don't listen to books all the time when I'm driving, and usually the only place I listen to books is when I'm driving. So like, yeah, it just depends. But like, my ADHD has gotten worse over the years. What are you doing, Zelda?
They're playing.
Her ass slammed into something, and yeah, she got her hair cut yesterday, so she looks like less of a sheep today. She looks like less of a sheep. What are you doing? I'm podcasting, and you're over here making problems.
It's okay, because Gizmo and who is that back there?
It's Ripley.
Oh, Ripley was trying to get on the couch and was not able to.
They're both their French bulldogness is becoming worse. Like she can't get upstairs as well, and neither can Gizmo. And I'm just like,
aww.
I'm like, I don't have to worry about him much longer, but I don't know if I'm gonna keep paying for him after the divorce. I don't fucking know what's happening, but like here we are in 2024 where Rod doesn't know many things. where Rod doesn't know many things in life.
You know what I know, Rod? I know that you got a big old weenie pee, and we all can celebrate that fact. And I also know that somebody needs to get Rod a date with a lovely lady who treats him well and wants to have a good time. So if you're looking for a good time and for a long time, contact Rod. Was that a good dating info?
I
I
don't
don't
know.
think so.
Maybe.
Maybe?
Maybe.
I don't
I
know.
will. I will say my book is going to supposedly be out this week. Maybe,
Hell
hopefully,
yes.
it will be out before this episode posts on Thursday. But I'm not sure. It said up to 72 hours, which would be Wednesday. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, let me know when it's up. I want to be one of the first ones to buy it,
You
please.
will. I will let you know, my friend.
Yay.
I will ask, what have you been watching? And I know that actually we have to talk about the big bad hunky boy in the room. Can, can, can you tell me what you watched in your stream on Friday, or not in your
I
stream, but
feel like
in your Discord?
I feel like we should use this as an excuse to get Josh to come and hang out. I finally watched Psycho Gorman, and it was the best thing ever, and I'm very disappointed in myself.
I I see. I know that there was a lot of it was you just being a sassy kin,
Hmm.
but Josh and I were telling you would love Psycho Gorman because we thought you would love Psycho Gorman,
And
and
you were right.
because it is the best movie ever. It is. There's a reason why we had him on our logo for like over a year. Like it was. We had to appreciate the hunky boys, and
I love BB. BB is like my spirit animal. She's such a little cunt. I love her so much.
she. I just love that she dooms Earth just because she's a shithead. It's just like she completely dooms the human race. So just because she's a brat, and it's just the best thing ever, and like it is such a wild movie. And I was telling you, we should. I actually I think we should probably maybe dive into this next week. But like the same team did The Void, which is kind of like it kind of reminds me of like if you had mixed The Thing with a Siege movie, and it's very very good. And they did that in like 2018 or something like that. But then the Psycho Gorman was his like director's next movie. Um, and yeah, it is such a. It was so funny like watching your people in your Discord like react to this movie because it's like I, I love Psycho Gorman with all my heart, but like it is weird and wild and crazy, and not everyone knows how to. Oh crap! I forgot to remind you. I made a hunky boys command in your chat today.
Oh yeah.
But I am very happy, and I had to point out to Ken that when he's dressed up like the guy from Jurassic Park.
Yeah, what was his name for Jurassic Park? I wanted to call him Dan, but that wasn't his name. It
I
was
know
Dr. something.
Alan Grant, or am I just
Yes,
is
Dr.
that
Alan
it?
Grant. Yes.
Okay, but he's got the hat and everything like that, and it's just like I. It's why I love that movie so much. Besides it being funny and everything like that, it is like they tongue in cheek it so fucking well, and like the they go like the sword that the female villain at the end of the movie is just like the most obvious. It's like a light tube with cardboard, and it still like is everything.
Listen, that spine sword, right?
Yeah.
Like the bone sword was the best thing I've ever seen. That
Yep.
whole movie was so good. And I
Yeah.
am really sad that I hadn't watched it prior. And I do really want to get some kind of Psycho Gorman tattoo at some point. I'm gonna
Yep.
rewatch it. I loved it. At first, I was like, I don't know, man. These kids, like this little girl, I don't know if she's just overacting or what. And then the more it went, the more I was like, dude, this girl has this nailed to a
Yep.
T. Like, this is perfect.
It's funny because now you go, I love the little girl in black phone, but I'm like, she's still not Mimi. Like she's not like as because like when Mimi breaks the crucifix over her fucking knee at the end of the movie, it is like it's just the perfect like that and the dad being the worst and the guy from the editor. And it's just a movie that knows what it is, completely embraces it, and it is wonderful. It is a wonderful film. Besides Psycho Gorman, the best movie ever made. Have you been watching anything there, Miss Kin?
Oh God, I'm slipping into a weird place. I started watching One Punch Man. Um,
I've watched like one episode of it because Vissy is very into One Punch Man, and
I really like it.
Yeah.
And I think because like I've been talking to people about it too, because I'm like, dude, I don't like anime, but like here we are. We played Genshin this week. I'm watching One Punch Man. Like, I mean, I love Avatar: The Last Airbender and Legend of Korra, but everybody insists, not everybody, but a lot of people insist it's not anime, but that's
because
besides the
it's
point.
because it's made here.
Right. Whatever. But yeah, so I was like, I don't know why I like this. And they're like, because it's making fun of anime. Like the whole thing is it's poking at anime and all of its little, shticks or whatever. So that's why you like it. And I was like, that makes sense. So I'm really liking it. And then I did finish Avatar: The Last Airbender, the live action one on Netflix, the show. Um, as a show, sure, why not? It was good. As a show, fantastic. As something from Avatar: The Last Airbender, nope. No, thank you. There was not enough plot development. Gizmo. What have
He's
you been watching?
X-Men 97 has been great. The continuation of the cartoon from the 90s,
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
which is on Disney
I've heard
Plus.
good things.
It's very, very good. I've been watching that. What else have I been watching? I've been watching the second half of season 2 of Invincible, which has been good. And then like I don't know, I haven't watched all that much. I've been watching. I continue on my like spree of watching Brandon Tenold's YouTube channel where he reviews old cult movies.
Mm-hmm.
I've just been watching like hours of Brandon Tenold like for like the last like couple weeks, and I've seen most of these episodes, and I'm still watching them again because he's funny and the videos are entertaining. So I think that's mostly what I've been watching. Yeah, nothing else really. Like, I went and got my Ripley tattoo on Friday.
Yeah.
Which you can't very see well, because it's covered up with the Irma shield stuff. But
Therma shield, he
Derma.
says.
Derma,
Therma.
Derma,
Therma.
Derma and Greg.
Oh man, that's a show I haven't thought about in years.
Yeah.
Dharma and Greg.
Well,
She used to stand on couches.
What did I just watch where the other lawyer was in? I just watched it, and I was talking about it with you, I think, at some point, but I don't fucking know where. Yeah. Yeah, so it's not been watching that much. But I don't know, man. My life has been hectic. I've been streaming more and more of Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, which is the never-ending game. I think I hit 76 hours in that game now.
Nice.
And I'm on chapter 12 of 14. So I could easily cross 100 hours. And I bought this really weird game on Steam that's like, I can't even think of the name of it, but like, you know, all the games like Vampire Survivors and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that, but like you mix it with Grand Theft Auto 2 or something like that, the over the head like thing, and you're running around stealing cars and killing a bunch of people in a time limit, and trying to get upgrades and doing that in like a 20-minute game. And it is, I paid like $4 for it yesterday, and I'm like, this is crazy, and I kind of dig it. So I was playing that, but like, yeah, it's kind of been what I've been doing. And failing miserably on the dating apps. So it's been my life. I took Zelda to the dog park for the first time on Saturday,
Mhm.
and she was a big old wuss, and she was scared until like Basset Hound showed up, and she's like, "Oh, okay, like this is the size dog she thinks she is," so she was happy with that, but. Because she's the ugly Frenchie. She thinks she's a French bulldog, even though she's a 47-pound poodle. So, and she got her hair cut on Sunday.
She's beautiful.
So Ken,
Mhm.
her butt
Shall I
exploded.
confess my sins?
Your butt exploded, and
Mhm.
you had diarrhea all over the floor,
Mhm.
and Nandor told you really need to drink more water. That's
Mhm.
what we do in the shadows joke. But Ken,
Mhm.
you may confess your sins because this is a good transition into the Exorcist 3 Legion.
So, for those of you not aware, like Rod just mentioned, we are discussing the Exorcist 3 Legion today. My sin for this podcast is I did not watch the movie. Yes, you heard me right. This is a podcast where we discuss movies that we've watched each week, and I did not watch the movie. Normally, we would just move it, if one of us didn't get a chance to watch it, but I'm
Yeah.
traveling the next 2 days, and that's not going to happen. I did in my manic stupor insanity insomnia attack this morning try to watch it at 2 in the morning. Um, and it was around 3. And finally, about that time, I was able to calm down enough to go back to sleep. So I have not watched it. So this is going to be a little bit different. We're going to kind of play this by the seat of our pants. Rod's going to explain it to me. We're going to talk about it. And yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Okay. We're going to do the setup for this, and we're going to talk more about the other things around this movie. So The Exorcist came out in what, 1978? Ken, you're a fact checker today because with my recording and everything like that, I think it was 1978.
The original Exorcist?
Yeah, or was it 1975? I'm like,
1973.
okay, 1973. Okay. Well, this movie came out in 1973. Can you see what year was the sequel?
That's what I'm pulling up right now.
The second one.
Yeah.
This and was one of the most successful horror movies ever made. Like it was like critics loved it. It's a very, 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 very good horror movie. These
77 for the sequel.
Yeah, and this was
And 3 was
1990.
1990.
Yeah. Number 2 was not very good. If you do not know. I've never seen Exorcist 2, but it involves the little girl older. I forget how much older, but it's supposed to be one of the worst horror sequels ever made. And that's saying a lot because we have things like we have Halloween 6 and Halloween Resurrection and like Friday the 13th Part 5 and Freddy Part 6. There's some really, really bad horror sequels. So they were like, we need to make sure this next Exorcist movie isn't total garbage. So what they did was they went and hired the author who wrote the books that the Exorcism was based on. And he came in and wrote a screenplay for Exorcist 3 and also directed the movie. Now, I would say that The Exorcist 3 is not the most well-known movie. I was actually talking to a woman on a dating app the other day, and she was into horror, and I said I had to watch this for the podcast. She's like, I didn't know Exorcist 3 existed. Touche, because not everyone knows Exorcist 3 exists. It is not like the I did at one point a podcast. I don't know if it was. I don't think it was Murder Moose. I think it was on Dead at Santa Carla when they were still going. But and they were one of the questions they asked me for that was like, what is your most under appreciated horror sequel? And I quoted this movie. It's a very, very weird movie because this movie is a cop procedural for a vast majority of the movie. But it's a little bit of a slow burn, but the final act of this movie goes nuts and it turns into one of my favorite like ending acts of a movie ever. But Ken,
Yes, sir.
when was the last time you watched the original Exorcist?
It's been a little bit. I don't remember exactly.
Do you remember how the Exorcist ends?
Yes, I think so.
The priest gets
The priest is
knocked out the
oh
window and falls down the stairs from the
yeah, and at the
iconic stairs.
start of this movie, the stairs are there, and the fog is rolling in and
Yeah.
rolling out.
So how this movie starts is the kid's talking about. So basically, the main character of the story is what's his name? Detective. Let me get it up on my phone.
I got it.
Okay, Detective. What is it?
Kinderman.
Yeah, Kinderman, who was friends with that man, the priest from the original Exorcist movie.
Father
And
Murrin.
I think in that it took place in 1975. Kim said it was released in 73, but like they keep quoting 15 years later. And he was friends with him, and there was this other priest that like was also friends with that priest, and those two kind of like hang out and they memorialize the Damien or the priest dying every year by going and watching It's a Wonderful Life. Like that is their whole thing. It's pretty funny because the detective like is this like older dude, but like he goes into the movie theater and like basically shows him his badge to get in the movie for free. He's like police work and he just bullshits to get into the movie. But they commemorate that day every year. And it's funny because they both are like, oh yeah, I'm doing it because the other person needs it. Oh, I'm doing it because the other person needs it. But so how we tie back into the original is that right around the time that the ending of The Exorcist happens, we have a serial killer, the Gemini killer, who was caught and executed right around the time. That the Gemini killer is played in this film by Chucky, aka Brad Dourif, and is by far the best part of the fucking movie. And not by far, but he's the best part of the movie because when he comes in, you're like, oh, shit's about to hit the fan. So these murders start happening in present 1990, and they are very much like the murders from the Gemini killer from 1975. We have a little boy gets murdered, gets his head cut off, and like he gets crucified on some oars. Yeah, it is. But I will say this movie as a whole is not violent really at all. The violence in this movie is pretty minimal. And I've lost again. There she's back. Okay. The violence in this movie is pretty minimal.
No,
in
I'm
the
here.
Yeah, it might maybe my connection or whatever.
Okay.
But this little boy gets murdered. They find the body, and it's like very similar. So like when the Gemini killer, Brad Dourif, was killing people, it was like he was cutting off one of their fingers, and he was like putting the symbol, the Gemini, on their stomachs. But like the press was telling people that like it was like on their back, and they were telling them the wrong finger was getting cut off. So it's like people don't come in and claim that they're the serial killer, which is the Gemini killer. So this killer starts doing these things again, like exactly like the Gemini killer was 15 years ago. The next victim is a priest, and it's actually one of the cooler scenes of the movie because it is this priest doing this confession in this confession booth, and this old lady comes in and she's like, "Father, I have to tell you about the boy. I slit his throat. It was a real problem to get rid of the body." And like this priest is like, "What the fuck?" And then it gets like jumps through the confession screen, and the priest is soon dead. There's like blood coming out from the confession booth. Again, they don't show much of this violence. And then at some point this transitions into the priest that the detective goes and sees It's a Wonderful Life with is in the hospital, and I don't know if they ever state why he's in the hospital, but he's in the hospital.
I was about to ask you that. Why was he in the hospital?
they quote something about like your brother had that, and he's like, but your brother died in Vietnam, and he's like, oh, it could have been related to that. Again, 1990. Also, the priest, he's hysterical because every time he's on the screen, he's just like chain smoking, and it's always funny to see a priest like chain smoking, and it makes me think of like Constantine, right? Like with Keanu Reeves and everything like that. He's in the hospital, and then we kind of start getting into where a lot of the funky, weird shit in this movie is happening because the ward that this is happening in is kind of like where not like it's like where like cops and people dump like people who are sick but they don't know what to do with, like like people that don't have names or don't have like whatever, like that are very. It's a lot of like people with like
Kind of like John Doe's.
Yeah, John Doe's and like Alzheimer's people and all that stuff. And eventually, like, it turns out that like someone comes in the middle of the night and murders the priest that is the buddy of the detective. And what happens? They don't show this again. None of this violence is really on screen. Someone comes in at like between 5 and 6 in the morning and completely drains this dude's blood, and the same like the way that the Gemini killer was killing people, he injects this stuff that paralyzes people, but like it's a very sensitive thing. It's like if you do it too much, they die. If you do it too little, it doesn't work. So he injects these things perfectly, and then proceeds to like drain this dude's blood, just like completely drains.
While he's alive?
Yeah, while he's alive.
Wow. I wonder what that would feel like.
Not fun, I would assume.
Probably cold.
Like the little black boy that he kills at the beginning, yeah, he crucified him while he was alive because he had done the same thing. And the priest, I'm not exactly sure how the priest in the confession booth got killed, but same thing. They used this to kill him, and like I don't know, like I don't know. They you see his finger get chopped off, like, or his hand is missing a finger, but and so like the cop locks down this whole hospital wing, and they're like, "What are you doing? You can't do this." And he starts exploring, and he figures out there's this ward where there's like kind of dangerous people. One of these people in this dangerous ward happens to look exactly like the priest from The Exorcist. And you start going, huh? But it's like 15 years later, right? And with all of this, there's like an investigation, and he's going around trying to figure this out. He ends up eventually going in there and like starts talking to this guy. This guy had been like in a coma for like, guess how many years? 15 years. Yeah, 15 years. So he basically goes in this guy, and like he had been like, for some reason they had these like brain like monitors on him, and like this guy keeps passing out. Strangely, when these murders happen, and his brain waves increase, which would like when you like pass out like that or like go unconscious, your brain waves are supposed to go down, but his go up. And he goes in and talks to this guy, and he talks to him for a little bit, and then he turns into Brad Dourif, and it's basically you get to figure out that this guy the Gemini killer got executed, and when he got executed, he was like, his soul was like wandering around, and the demon from The Exorcist was like, "Hey, I want to help you out, buddy," and he puts his soul into the soul of the priest that fell down the stairs.
Nice.
Because he wants him to fuck shit up. And but it's like you're sitting there and you're going, but like he's in this locked ward. Like they show it in the movie. It's like it's a ward where you have to enter a password, and then there's like a locked door, and then you have it's like 2 doors, right? And you have to have a nurse let you in through that. So like, but how does any of this happen? And there's a line at some point about how like these not amnesiac, but like people losing their minds, basically they're real easy to like take over. and which leads to old lady like crawling on the ceiling part of the movie, which is one of the things. Also, this is right around the time where the most infamous jump scare in horror movie history happens, where a nurse is watching the ward at night, and you get it's one of the weirdest shots ever because it's just showing shot down this hallway, and this nurse is wandering around checking out all these patients. She goes, she's like goes in this room, then comes out, and then like someone like slams out from like this doorway she was just in, and you don't, again, more violence that you don't see, but like it's like shit, like like the weird like jump scare sound happens, and it is like long before I'd seen this movie, it was like one of those like internet 101 is like, oh, you gotta see this jump scare, it's like the most infamous jump scare of all time. And all this happens, and the old lady climbs to the ceiling later on, like I said, and ends up going to this detective's house to like murder his wife, but he gets back in time, and he finds the old lady he'd been talking to, who like there's like it's all these people with like brain problems, right? And like she's like talking to him, she's like, have you seen my radio? And she doesn't have anything. He's like, yeah, that's good radio. And she's like, it's a phone, but you wouldn't know that. And it's just like this. And he finds this lady in his house, in his like kitchen, with like his wife and daughter and his mother or something like that. And then she tries to murder them with like a giant pair of
hedge clippers,
not like the ones you use
bolt
to like
cutters,
cut, like you use to cut open ribs and shit. Like,
oh, okay.
Yeah, so like at one point, when the detective goes into the morgue to like look at the autopsy of the priest, they say something about like there's a pair of these missing, and so they stop her and she doesn't do it. But like while this is happening, and this is the funny part about this. So I don't think this scene was in the book, or like that this was based off of Legion, but that like the movie studio was like, you need to have an exorcism, so they have this priest go in, and this is probably the most violent scene in the whole movie, and starts performing an exorcism on the guy, this Gemini killer, in the cell, and he ends up like sticking, like he like floats up to the ceiling and is like stuck on the ceiling, and like his like face is peeling off. And then there are like snakes everywhere because, the devil and snakes and everything like that. And like he falls off, and then the detective is like pops back up like at this point in time, and ends up like shooting the priest, and then the movie basically ends. Like after they show like the thing with they finally bury him because like they never found his body because nobody could figure out it was the priest from The Exorcist because but I know everyone, my description of this film was terrible, but we'll have to say it like this.
I think it was great.
I'm
all
glad.
right, as
Okay.
someone who hasn't watched it, I feel like I was there. I feel like I got the important facts. I give it a 7.955 out of 9.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
I want you to watch it anyways, but
I will.
Ken, now you have to ask questions about the film, and
Okay. So in total, there were 3 priests in this movie, the original one, and then the 2 others.
There's actually 4 priests in this because the one who comes in and does the exorcism at the end. So, I mean, you get 3 priests die, or actually, all the victims besides the little kid are priests. So you get the priest that gets killed in the confession booth. You get the priest killed in the hospital. You get the priest that was like trying to perform the exorcism. And the guy's, I don't know if he was dead, but his face and like torso was getting pulled off. I assume he was dead. And then the priest from The Exorcist is the 4th one. So 4 priests get killed in it.
Okay, I was just confirming that the demon in the first one was Pazuzu. So that demon is involved. Pazuzu's involved because Pazuzu grabs the soul
Of this Gemini killer.
of the Gemini killer and puts it in the priest from the original Exorcist.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pazuzu out here being wild. Pazuzu. My cousin Link had a dog named Pazuzu that we always said, just like you would on Futurama, Pazuzu.
Pazuzu. It reminds me of I know I follow this woman on Twitter called Brie Animator, which I love her name. But like she has a
I love that so much.
she has a French bulldog named the demon for Hereditary. What's the name of the demon in Hereditary? B. What's the demon in Hereditary? Why am I having a fucking brain fart? I just had it and then my brain went cha-chunk. Nope.
King Paimon.
I think is what,
Paimon.
I think that's what her French bulldog's name is. But yeah. Yeah, so there was 4 priests and they all being a priest in this movie was not a good thing, and I would say, like, before the next question, like my favorite part of this movie is when so the priest is the same actor from the original Exorcist. They got him to come back, but like they do this transition where it's Brad Dourif in the fucking in the like it's Brad Dourif, the Gemini killer, sitting there, and Brad Dourif is so fucking good at this because like he's talking about all this horrible shit, right? And then like he'll just have a tear like rolling down his face, but like looks completely psychotic. And he has a couple tears coming down, and it's just like it is such good acting, and I'm just like, God damn it! Brad Dourif, like I think most people only know Brad Dourif from the Lord of the Rings movies, where he's what ring or ringworm or what the fuck is his name? I don't fucking know. So yeah. Wormtongue is his name, I guess. So, yes. Okay. Next question, Ken.
So, I went ahead and looked it up. The movie, this isn't a question, this is a fact. There was a $11 million budget. It was shot on location in Georgetown, and the shooting took 8 weeks in mid-1989. I was trying to pull up what they brought in, and it looks like worldwide gross was 39 million, with US and Canada being 26 million. So that's pretty freaking good for a horror movie, especially in the early 90s. Like that's pretty great.
Well, especially because Exorcist 2 was such a pile of garbage. Like, what?
Yeah.
Can you look up this movie on Rotten Tomatoes and see what the critic score is for this? Because I'm curious on what like
for Exorcist 2 or Exorcist 3.
3, Exorcist 3.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm curious on like what this was, because it's still like it feels like only people in horror circles talk about this movie. I mean, obviously it's a 34-year-old movie now, but
the audience score is a 57, and the tomato meter is a 59. Yeah, which is wild. So let's see what 2 yields, though. I do want to see.
It's wild because
it's 11.
Yeah, it's literally like notoriously one of the worst horror sequels that, like, from a rankings perspective of all time. Like, it does not like. To be honest, like I know you feel the same, Ken. Our time is limited these days. Like, I'm not gonna go and watch a movie that like gets universally shit on and like waste my time, because I'd rather be watching things that bring me joy. Was this another question for you is, I think this was the director's first direction, because he was the author of the books, right? So I don't know for sure, but it seems like it was his first time directing too. Do you have any information on that, Miss Kin?
I'm looking right now. I know that William Peter Blatty wanted the film to be titled simply Legion, like his novel of the same. Yeah. The producers, however, wanted it to be The Exorcist 3 for commercial reasons, tried to convince them to alter it to The Exorcist 1990 in order to distance it from The Exorcist 2, which he despised, but had to settle for The Exorcist 3.
Yeah. And when I've referred to it as Legion, it's because the book is Legion, and there's a Brad Dourif gives a speech about we are Legion and it is why that is called Legion. But yeah, it is. See, I think that maybe a lot of people. This movie is very much more like a movie, like a thriller, like Seven or like something like that along those lines, like Zodiac for the first 2/3, where it's very much like a cop procedural, right? Where like people are dying and they're trying to figure out why someone would know how this Gemini killer, I almost said Zodiac killer again, is doing these exact same crimes, or like someone's like copycatting him. And this movie's like less than 2 hours long, but like it's probably people were pissed that it wasn't The Exorcist, right? Like they were pissed that it was different, and they were pissed that it was like. But it sounds like The Exorcist 2 was like a trying to be The Exorcist, and that didn't work out well, right? And I don't know, man. Yeah. Okay, Ken. Do you have any more questions? Let's go.
I was going to bring up the fact that there was a conversation that Blatley wanted to have John Carpenter do the directing.
Yeah.
But because John Carpenter really liked the script, but then he backed out because Blatley was like, no, I want to direct this myself. Like, let me do this. So I thought that was really interesting. There's a lot of really cool cameos in this one.
Yeah.
Larry King is in it. Fabio is in it. Patrick Ewing.
Ewing, yep. Yeah. A lot of them are in heaven. So like the detective has these like dream sequences where you're like Fabio's in there. And to be fair,
Samuel Jackson.
Yeah, Sam. I so this is the second time I've seen this movie. I didn't see him this time, but like I've seen YouTube videos pointing out he's in there.
His voice is dubbed for this one line.
Oh, okay.
He's a blind man.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Then he had his like I think his eyes are covered up. Like it's funny because it's like it's this thing where like they're kind of implying that the detective is like having visions, but they kind of come off just like dreams. Like he's running around and like the little kid that got like murdered is like running around and he's got these like stitches like Frankenstein stitches across his neck because when he they were killing him, they ended up decapitating him and then putting on there's this statue in that the medical hall that where a lot of the movie takes place with Jesus, like where Jesus got decapitated, and they put the head on this little boy and put like minstrel makeup on it. Like so they gave the Jesus thing blackface, and then they like poked spikes into both the eyes, and you're just like, oh. And I'm not sure if they did that to the head too, but like. That's one of the creepier moments of the movie is like they're like, yeah, the little kid was alive during this whole murder, and you're just like, oh,
that's intense.
Yeah, like
that's super intense.
Like I said, like this movie is weirdly not violent until it's violent. Like at the Exorcist, but like is like the violent part of this movie.
Kind of like Cobweb, I guess, in a way, where Cobweb's like there wasn't violence until the kid's head got smashed in.
Yeah.
And
flattened. It's like until he poisoned his parents, really. But yeah.
Well, that's
But like it's very much like it's this slow burn thriller that's like turns into a thing, and it's just like that. It's good before that, but like when Brad Dourif comes in and starts like being Brad Dourif, you're like, damn, Brad Dourif, you creepy motherfucker.
Yeah, apparently he was a very, very particular character in the Twilight Zone, or not the Twilight Zone. Oh my God, the X-Files. Jesus Christ. A very particular creepy character in the X-Files that I remember very vividly because I was looking up his past and I was like, oh yeah, like that character.
Yeah.
So
well, it's funny because like I've been watching like my pointing of like watching a bunch of Brandon Tunnell's YouTube, and he did this weird like sci-fi like a robot horror movie, and Brad Dourif plays like the creepy guy who designed the one in it, and it's like Brad Dourif just being Brad Dourif, and it's like he pulls off being creepy man like so amazingly well, and you're just like, I mean, obviously, like he's infamous for like being Chucky, which has very little actual of him in it. He's like in the opening scene of Child's Play, but like the direct to DVD ones like Curse of Chucky and the other one, what the fuck was the other one called?
Bride of Chucky?
No, it was Curse of Chucky, and then I forget what the other one was, where it was in like the psychiatric hospital. Like they started doing like flashbacks to Brad Dourif being like before he got caught being like got killed at the beginning of the first one, and then the show was doing that too, the Chucky show. I still need to watch the second season of Chucky, but
I need to watch the whole thing.
I love the first season. It's a little bit like a little bit ham-handed with the 14-year-olds, like like acting because they're like all pretty new to it, but like it's still really good. The first season at least. And then you have what's his name? God damn it. The guy from Final Destination. What's his why is my brain farting? But he's in it as like the dad, and it plays multiple roles. Why am I saying Damien? It's not Damien. But yeah. So
this does remind me, in case you guys did not know, there was an Exorcist TV show. It was great. There were only 2 seasons and it wasn't renewed, but it was really, really good. Strongly recommend.
I just like the thing with this movie is that like I feel like people went in and didn't judge it fairly because it had the name The Exorcist on the beginning of it. And I'm like, but it's such a like, it's slow to start, don't get me wrong, but like the last half an hour, 40 minutes of it is just wild, and like fucking acting is great. Brad Dourif fucking kills it. The detective is awesome. And it's just like, why can't you give things chances, guys? Because like, I mean, coming from a guy who doesn't always like sequels, that like, but like when you make a high quality sequel, especially after the garbage pit that was the fucking Exorcist Believer that came out last year, that shit show of a fucking film was just it was boring. This movie's not boring. It's fucking it's slow burn. It's like a thriller that turns into a horror movie, but like, man, I just wish people who like The Exorcist would give this one a shot. So I don't know. Okay, Ken, next question.
Shit, where was it? I had one pulled up and now it's gone. I do not remember. Sorry.
Ken, what am I gonna do with you?
I don't know, but we're gonna have to pause this cut really quick. So just pause right here. Sorry, just a second.
Okay.
Okay.
You good?
Sorry.
Good. Ken, you just keep letting me down. Okay, we're back.
That's fair. Hi.
So, what other information have you found in your adventures into Exorcist 3, Ken?
Where was I? I was looking at something. I will say, like I said, the bit that I watched this morning, which wasn't very much, I found it very funny. Just the little bit I watched, just the stares alone, because I was like, oh, they're trying to make it look like fog, but they're doing it in a really weird way. And like, I don't know. I thought it was really interesting.
It's trying to replicate the original, like the stair scene, and just like trying to make that like a dreamy version of it, because it's very much the detective's dreams in that opening sequence. So
I was looking to see if the William Peter Blatty, if he had done anything other than The Exorcist, and he's written a bunch of things. The Man from the Diners Club. He's written a lot of stuff that was done in the 60s and 70s. He wrote The Exorcist, Exorcist 2, The Heretic, Exorcist 3, Exorcist 3 Legion, the novel, as well as the screenplay, the Ninth Configuration, Dominion. He's got a podcast. he did a video of the Exorcist novel.
It very much reminds me of what's going to happen with Kevin Williamson directing Scream 7 now. And we've talked about Kevin Williamson on the podcast. We did the Scream movies, and then we also did that. What the fuck was the COVID movie he did?
Not is sick.
Sick, yeah. He wrote part of that, but like this is going to be his first directing with Scream 7. So it's interesting because it's not always like a bad thing, but like it's more scary when a director has no experience, right? And like something like Scream 7, but like
But there's also that whole element of this is their work, this is their baby, this is what they created, so that maybe they can get out what they want to see a little bit more.
yeah. And that's why I think this movie is done well. Like the dialogue is good, the acting is good. I think the worst acting in this whole movie is the fucking there's this like cranky old nurse in the ward that this takes place in. A lot of it takes place in, and she might be the worst part of it. Like she starts yelling at like there's lots of paranoia in the like the basic like the third act of this, like when they're in the hospital after the priest gets killed. And so like when the father possessed by the Gemini killer, he like basically warns the detective, and so he's out and running, and he goes to this room and wakes up some guy or something like that, and it's just like she's like yelling at him and like whatever. And she might be the worst acting part of the movie, but like I actually think that this movie is like acted well, written well, the dialogue's good, and it's just like it really is a thriller for a lot of the movie. Like it's like the who could be replicating this and doing this, and like the horror elements come in that third act, and a lot of it's just like I said, the studio made them do the Exorcist scene. Do you have any information about them forcing him to do the Exorcist scene in that? Because it is like one of the most interesting parts, because they wanted an exorcism because like it's the Exorcist, and I'm just wondering if there's any cool information with that, because it just
There might have been. Let's see.
Yeah.
Okay. In addition to the demand of an exorcism scene to be included in the ending, the producers also wanted an actor from the first movie to be part of The Exorcist 3. Jason Miller, who had played Father Karras in the first movie, sorry, I know I butchered that, was unavailable to shoot The Exorcist 3 when principal photography started. He was called to shoot a few scenes as Patient X. In order not to remove the work that had already been done by Brad in the role, writer and director William Peter Blatty decided to use the footage of both actors. Thus, Jason Miller can be seen as Patient X when he's manifesting the personality, and Brad can be seen when he's conveying the Gemini killer personality.
Yeah.
The execution style ending that was pitched by Blatty to the studio differs radically from the ending that was the novel, the first screenplay adaptation developed for the novel.
Yeah.
Yeah, as far as like anything else though, that's basically the only trivia that's prevalent or that's available easily. I mean, obviously there's a lot more, I'm sure, but
Yeah.
then there's like some interesting other stuff, but yeah, I would be kind of surprised if there was an Exorcist movie that didn't involve some type of an exorcism, but
I mean, to be fair, he didn't want to call it The Exorcist, right? Like you mentioned that already. You want to call it Legion because it's called Legion. And it's like there's a line that we are Legion, but like again, it's name recognition and like trying to go off of the name. And we live in a world where like I just watched a thing about like on YouTube about like 10 10 sequels that are finally happening, like Freaky Friday 2. They're making a Bullet too, by the way, if you didn't know that, which is fucking insane. But yeah, it is name recognition means a lot in Hollywood, even though like none of these horror movies in 2024 have huge budgets, and they still like usually all make a lot of money. Oh, I'm yawning over here. My continued not sleeping all night is a process where I like at 7 o'clock at night, my body's like, nope, you're tired. But like, I just think that like it's kind of like, it reminds me of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, right? Like, where nobody gives Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 any credit or a chance. I mean, there are people that
Mhm.
do, but like, it's like, it's not Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And it's like, but it's not supposed to be Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It is a sequel, and this is a very like it's more of a thriller, like I keep saying, that turns into a horror movie with all the stuff that really happens. But like, I feel like this movie earns its place. It's like it differentiates itself from the original and does cool stuff, and it does something that, like, when you're watching it, like especially the first time, it doesn't, like, you don't know, it's like twists and turns. You're like, it sets up that, like, why is this Gemini killer doing, like, how is the Gemini killer back doing things when he was executed 15 years ago? So like, I I just think this movie is dope, and I think it's underappreciated, and I think that, like, when a sequel to a horror movie, like, does something right, it should get credit, man. And it's like, it's weird, man, like, because we live in a world where, I know, like, I like Nightmare on Elm Street 2. Nightmare on Elm Street 2 is a weird fucking movie. It is also a very, like,
Mhm.
enabling you to be as gay as you want kind of movie. That's like kind of what Nightmare on Elm Street 2 is. But like, people, when they point to the Nightmare on Elm Street series, they point to 1 and 3. I mean, the Dream Warriors, and then like A New Nightmare. I think that, like, this is the, like, because let's be real, The Exorcist has a pretty bad track record, right? Like, they had, like, you mentioned Dominion. There's like the Dominion movie. Like, I don't know if you know that whole thing, like, where they like, they shot a sequel or a prequel for The Exorcist, and then like took it away from the director, and then like recut, like gave it a new director and like made it a new movie, and then they let the original director like release his version. Like, there's some weird fucking, like, things with the series, and it's just like, there are enough like people that, like, they just want to make money off these movies, and they're not in it to actually make good horror movies. And it's kind of annoying. I mean, we live in a world where Asylum makes the movies it does, where, all the CG schlock, directed, like, imitation movies, right? And I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't know, Ken. What is your, like, someone who didn't watch it, like, would you, like, you'd never even, like, really known much about it before, like, the last week. What is your thought process with this film? And again, no, you haven't watched most of it, but
I'm gonna watch it. I'm absolutely gonna watch it.
yes, good. And I
Yeah.
hope you enjoy it, because I really do think it's a slow burn, but it's less than 2 hours, and I think it nails what it does, man. I think this movie is fun. I think that it's a, like, just, I don't want to see the same horror movie over and over again. I don't know about you, Ken. I mean,
Right. Yeah,
you want
no, I'm
you,
with you.
you want something different. You want it to, like, distinguish itself from the original. And again, referring, like, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, I love a lot. In
Mhm.
this movie, I love it. Like, you can't just try to do the same movie that, like, started, and when you do, you get things like, you get the Halloween movies, right? Where Halloween 2 does a lot of the same stuff, just like more graphic and more violent, and then they're like, they do the Season of the Witch. Nobody watched it because Michael Myers was in it, and it's just like, it's all the things where it's like, I I wish horror movies got to be more original. I wish horror movies got to, like, distinguish themselves. I wish they got to do stuff like this, because it's like, we talked about it on here before, but the 90s weren't great for horror movies either, right? Like, the MPA
Right.
had fucked up a lot and really killed slashers by that point. And so, like, before Scream came out in 96, we had, like, this movie, and we had Candyman, and there was some stuff that came out, but, like, it was a pretty dry period for horror movies, right? So,
Yeah.
um, Ken, I am glad that we came and did this, regardless of you having seen it, because it was an interesting, thing of, what in God's name is, I don't know. My audio, I think, froze on. But I have the video. It's okay, but I'm like, why'd that stop? So I don't know what's happening, Ken. I don't. Okay. So I was thinking, after you've watched Psycho Goreman, Ken,
Mhm.
that we watch The Void next week. The
Sounds
thing,
good to me.
the thing like thing sequel or prequel, not prequel, but like movie by the directors. And Ken, as you go into your adventures over the next couple of days, I want you to be safe, and I want you to be. I don't want you to let Weasel to kill you, okay? Because Weasel.
She might, and Stripes might shit in the car. My biggest concern, it's so funny because like when we were thinking about how I was going to get them here and thinking about flying with them, I was like, I can't fly with Stripes. If I fly with Stripes and he farts on the plane, they're going to kick me off for like biohazardous toxin something or another. Like it's not going to work.
Is Stripes a big farter?
Oh my God, he's the biggest farter. I'm going to take him to the vet up here and be like, hey, please help this cat stop farting because I've tried changing his food. I've tried giving him wet food instead of dry food, which obviously that's going to make it worse. But yeah,
Yeah.
he farts. He farts and he does human sized poops. So
I know he's a chunky monkey, but that's scary.
he's a stink, is what he is.
Well, you be safe and you have a good drive and you be careful. And I'm going to be in your chat every morning without you there and be like, Kensley, where are you?
Do it.
I will.
Do it.
Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. So next week we will watch The Void.
Okay.
And slam that movie because it's fucking fantastic. Ken will watch Exorcist 3 tonight. And then we'll
Maybe.
No, maybe. Okay. Go to murdermist.com and buy yourself some merchandise. And go to continue.com and find all her scheduling errors.
That's valid as hell.
I mean, because you're like, you have a very crazy life, Ken, and so lots of craziness. Ken did cook on stream this morning. It was very cool.
I did.
Yeah,
I did.
You can follow me on Twitch at Rod_Johnson. You can follow me on Twitter, X, whatever the fuck it is, at Rod_Johnson. And yeah, so next week we watch The Void, and Ken is the best, and I love her, and came and did this even though she didn't watch the movie, and
I appreciate you.
I appreciate you. Okay, everybody. We will catch you guys next week for The Void. So we love you. Have a good one. And we'll see you later. And bye.
Bye.